Hey there, it's Alison from Dreamweaver Designs, and today on Thinking Outside the Box, I'm going to show you how I created these enamel look beads. They are absolutely gorgeous and so easy to create, so I'm going to go ahead and get set up and I'll be back. These are the supplies that I use to create the enamel look beads that I showed you at the beginning of this video. First off, I use the ice resin iced enamels. These are very similar to embossing powders. I have tried just plain embossing powders to create these beads, and I did not get any good results from that. These work the best, so that's why I'm showing you these. You're also going to need, if you wish to put a stamp imprint on your bead, some sort of a very small stamp. And I used these Southwest or tribal themed stamps. I will have links to everything in the description below this video, so please check that out. You're going to need some sort of a bead rack to put your beads on. This one, unfortunately, is no longer available. However, you might be able to find it on eBay used, but there are so many bead racks if you just do a search in Google for polymer clay bead racks, something that you can put in the oven. This is metal. I am using White Premo by Sculpey. And of course, you're going to need a clay blade. You're going to need a brush to apply your varnish. I am using Varnishing Finish, and this is an ultra high gloss. You can get this at the hardware store, but they only have like gallon containers or quarts. So From the Heart Supplies is offering this in 2 ounces. 2 ounces goes a long way. So that's a really good deal from them. And then you're going to need something to put around to put your beads on. And I use just these double-ended knitting needles. And you can use any size you want. If you want your hole to be larger so that you can put leather through it, or cording, you're going to want a larger needle. And last but not least, these are my easy bead templates, and you get a kit that comes in these 3 sizes, and you will create a perfect bead guaranteed every single time. So it's really nice to have these, and they don't slip around on the clay. So I'm going to go ahead and get set up. We're going to keep this video short. So I'm going to show you how I made 1 bead, and I'll be back. All right, so the first thing that you want to do is condition your white clay. I have rolled this out to a number 5 on my pasta machine. A number 1 is the thickest setting. I like to make these fairly thin because you are going to be wrapping them. So unless you want a big and bulky bead, that's fine. You can, set your thickness thicker. And I am going to be using these 2 ice resin iced enamels to create this bead. So the first thing that you want to do is cut your bead out. And I'm going to go ahead and place my template down on my clay and just give it slight pressure. This will hold your template in place so it doesn't slip around. And you can just take your clay blade, butt it right up to the template and cut down. Butt it up again and cut. And you do that all the way around. Now to pick it up, I just like to put and this is a silicone mat that I'm using, so it's not going to stick to this. I just pull it up. And now I'm going to lightly pull it away at the top and slowly pull it off the template. Go ahead and place it on my mat. And I showed this in my previous video, but some people may not have watched it, so I'm going to show you. To clean these, you want to use just soap and water, or you can use a baby wipe. Do not use alcohol on these. If you do, you will get something like this. Eventually, in time, acrylic, when it is subjected to alcohol, I only had a little teeny bit of alcohol in this, and it cracked. I mean, it's really cool looking, but it cracked and it is now not usable. So just use a baby wipe or take it to the sink and wash it with warm soapy water. And then you just dry it off with a paper towel and you're good to go. But it's always important to clean your tools after you use them. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I like to trim away a little bit of my bead. And I'm going to move you in just a little. I trim away the corners at the top. And usually I have to do this one more time to make it more even. And then I like to slice the bottom at an angle. So you're just taking an angle off the bottom. You're not cutting straight down. And that will give you, when you roll your bead, it'll just look smoother. So if you want to put a stamp on your bead, this is the time to do it. And on these larger beads, I like to put 2 stamps. So I am going to choose a stamp. And I put it down at the bottom and just rock. A little bit of pressure, rocking from side to side and top to bottom so that you've got an impression in there. And we'll choose one more stamp. And same thing, a little bit of pressure, rocking top to bottom, side to side. All right, now we are going to roll our bead up. And to do that, I place it evenly on my needle and then just start rolling. Making sure that both ends are even. And then I like to just smooth this bottom out with my fingertip, just a little bit. And there you go. Now you're going to take your, which I don't think I had in the list of things, but I like to use my X-Acto knife, and I'm just pushing these corners down to round them. And I'm going to do the same thing at the other end. So you just don't have that point there. Okay, so there is your perfect bead. Now I like to take a piece of paper so that I don't waste my enamels. And I usually put the darker color on the inside. So we'll start with that. And the thing I like about these is they're a little chunkier. They're not as fine as most embossing powders. And they have bits of black. So it kind of gives it that distressed look. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put the embossing powders in the middle. And I'm going to push with my finger so that they stick to the clay. And I'm going to do that all the way around. So I'm applying a little bit of pressure because you want to make sure it sticks. And I'll go around again just to make sure that I have plenty of embossing powder on there. I've tried putting it on with a brush and you just can't get as much on there as you can with using your fingers and pushing it in. And I'm not using a lot of pressure, just enough to make that embossing powder stick to the clay. All right, now that we have that on there, I'm going to put my bead off to the side, and any excess embossing powder we're going to put right back into our jar. So we have very little waste. And now on to the pink, which we're going to put on the edges. Now when I put it on the edge, I want to make sure that I'm also getting this part of the bead. You want to try not to leave any white unless that's the look that you're going for. I've tried putting these powders onto black clay and the colors just aren't as brilliant as if you were to put it on white. All right, now I'm going to flip it over and we'll do the other end. And if you see any areas of white, you can just go over them with your powder. If you want to add a little powder, a little pink to the blue or to the purple, you can do that also. All right. We are now going to take our bead, put it on your bead rack, and you're going to put this in the oven for 1 hour at 275. So 275 degrees for 1 hour. I'm going to go ahead and do that, and I'll be back. Here is the bead out of the oven and fully cooled. You want to make sure before you touch it that it is fully cooled. Otherwise, you can chance messing up your enamel finish. So to get the bead off of the needle, I just take my pliers, hold it, grab my bead, and turn. And then all you have to do is pull it right off the needle. The next step is you want to varnish your bead. Now it is glossy, and you can leave it like this, but I like super gloss. So I am going to put it on to the end of a chopstick because I like to give it 3 coats of varnish. I'll go ahead and do a coat, and then I'll do another coat after that is dry, and then I will take the bead off the chopstick, turn it around, and do the coat again because I like to get just a little bit of the inside of the bead. So I'm going to go ahead and show you the first coat, and you'll be able to do the second and third no problem, and you'd probably be able to do the first no problem, but I'm just going to show you how I do it. So this is the high gloss varathane finish. You're going to want to shake this bottle. Do not shake it. You're going to want to stir. I've already done that, so I'm going to open it up and go straight from the bottle because unlike my previous tutorial with the ceramic look beads that had the pan pastel on them, these will not lose their color at all. Trying to get in shot here. These will not lose their color at all. So I won't be tainting my bottle by putting my brush into my bottle. And for the first coat, I'm just going to put a thin, very, very thin coat on. You don't really want to get any pools of varnish, and you'll be able to tell if there's a pool of varnish because it will look white. I'm going to put a little bit in the top part and then get around the rest of the bead. And the brush that I'm using is a very soft brush. It's an e.l.f. makeup brush, and it is an eye crease brush. They're $2 and on the e.l.f. website, and I suggest buying a bunch of them because they are awesome. They really last, and I use them for so many different projects. All right, so now I'm just going back over the bead, and any kind of pooling, I'm just kind of dabbing it with the bristles that I've wiped off. And now we are just going to leave this bead to dry. It takes about 20 minutes for the bead to dry. So I suggest 20 minutes in between coats. I suggest 3 coats like my previous beads. And then after you are done with the 3rd coat and it is fully dry, go ahead and put it, and if you have a wooden chopstick, you can just go ahead and put that on your bead rack. And you're going to put that in your oven at 200 degrees for 20 minutes. And what that will do is it will heat set your varathane. So your varathane is going to be a lot more durable. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. I hope it inspired you and that you found it helpful. If you did, please give me a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel for free tutorials all the time. And until next time, have a great weekend. Bye.